Brings out to Jordan, and then Hemp on the way in.
Erling. Nice little kick. Oh! Leroy Sané pulls City back level. Dzeko. Release to Jovetic. Can he get a shot away? He can, and he scores. Stefan Jovetic scores. And to the right, Riyad Mahrez. Mahrez finds the net. There's the breakthrough for Manchester City. Aguero does get the shot, and it bounces across the line. It was from him, and Foden catches out the goalkeeper. 2-0 to City. Well, through this, a beautiful pass for Sterling. One-on-one with the keeper. He cannot miss. Shot towards Haaland. Haaland tries to get beyond the last defender, and it's parried, and Foden with the tap-in on the line. The 1-2 gets the ball back from Kevin De Bruyne. Early cross from him to the back post, and that is the opening goal for Manchester City. Phil Foden finishes off the team move. Back then could have gone for a finish of his own. And it's set up there for a low drive. It's a second goal, this time from the right-hand side from Phil Foden. Third goal, and they find it through Kevin De Bruyne. A well-placed strike from the Belgian.
Welcome to Matchday Live. It is FA Cup time as we look to carry on the journey to retain, of course, the FA Cup trophy that we won so wonderfully last season. There you go. It's Kenilworth Road for tonight's game as City take on Luton. Thank you so much for joining us for Matchday Live this evening. It is a pleasure, as always, to be here with you. And tonight I am joined in the studio by Manchester City royalty. We have Paul Dickoff, as always, lovely to see you.
As always.
As always, one of our regulars. And then I've not worked with him before, or I've not had him on a show before, but I'm very excited. Nicky Weaver's here. Good evening.
Good evening.
Have you been in this studio before?
I have, yes.
Okay.
I did something with Paul Power, Mike Summerbeanie and Brightwell.
Oh, lovely. Oh, more royalty. Lovely. Well, thank you for being here with us this evening. And thank you all. OK, it's an 8 p.m. kickoff tonight, FA Cup. And, of course, we will be here with you. We've got FG and Sean Wright-Phillips, who are down at Kenilworth Road. And then later on, you'll get your full match commentary of the game with Alistair Mann and with Michael Brown. It's one of those typical questions, Nicky, that everybody always asks players. What does the FA Cup mean to you?
Well, it's obviously changed over the years, hasn't it? When I was a kid, it was almost bigger than winning the league. And now we've gone into the Premier League era. It sort of took a back seat, but it's still hugely important. All the fans want to go to Wembley. And yeah, some of the FA Cup finals are some of, my biggest memories of watching football growing up. So it's still a huge competition. It was obviously part of the amazing season we had last year. So yeah, it's hugely important.
I just love it. I just love the FA Cup. I'm same as Nicky. Just as a fan growing up, I just watched it and just dreamed of being in that final. It never changes.
No, it doesn't, and it's huge. Even though obviously being born and bred and brought up in Scotland, the FA Cup final day was. Although they used to have their own Scottish FA Cup final, used to be played on the same day, but everybody used to watch the English FA Cup final. The build-up seemed to start about 9-10 o'clock in the morning. You would watch all the old games and everything else. And as Nicky said, some of my memories of watching football come from the FA Cup final. I was fortunate enough in '93 to be as a squad member, not on the pitch at Arsenal. And when you come down to England, you realise how big it really is, the history behind it. And one thing Pep's always wanted to do is win every competition that we've been in, and he's always put the FA Cup high up there because of the history and the tradition and what it means to Manchester City as well.
I'm sure that we'll see the priority for the game tonight when we see the team sheet very, very shortly. So let's go over to Kenilworth Road. FG is there with Sean Wright-Phillips. They're going to give us the team news. But Sean Wright-Phillips, I'd like to know, he has never scored at Kenilworth Road. But the prolific goal scorer Andy Morrison has. So how does it feel, Sean, to have not scored when Andy Morrison has?
Yes, thank you very much, Natalie Pike, who has just asked the question how it feels, Sean, that Andy Morrison has scored a goal there and you haven't.
Well, to be honest, I don't mind, because he was obviously playing here when the ball used to always be in the air. And as people know, I'm very small, so that wouldn't have helped me at all.
Very, very techie. Welcome to Matchday Live from Luton Town. As you can see, we're on a lovely little gantry here, enjoying ourselves. And we've got the team news to bring to you, which we will in a minute. But a word on the stadium. It's very tight, very compact. It's going to be a good atmosphere in here tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's nice, it's very vibrant, and I can't wait for it to fill up and hear how much noise it actually makes.
When you're playing at a stadium like this, and it is super close to the pitch down at pitch side, we've had a little walk round. Can you hear everything that the fans say?
Yes, pretty much. Or sometimes yes, and sometimes you have to learn to block it out, don't you? And like after a point, it kind of goes over your head. But yeah, especially when you're taking corners and throw-ins, you can literally hear everything.
Well, we've got a very, very interesting night ahead, and let me bring to you the team news for Manchester City. In goal is Stefan Ortega, and our captain this evening is Kyle Walker. And then it is John Stones and Akanji with Nathan Ake making up the back four. We have Mateo Kovacic, Mateus Nunes, Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Jack Grealish and Erling Haaland. The substitutes for Manchester City: Ederson, Ruben Diaz, Jeremy Doku, Rodri, Julian Alvarez, Sergio Gomez, Phil Foden, Oscar Bob, who's just signed a new contract, we'll come to that a little bit later, and Rico Lewis. First things first, a very, very strong Manchester City side, the defending champions of this competition, and it's an important game tonight, isn't it?
Well, we know what it's like at this time of the season. Every game that City seem to be in is very important, and whatever team Pep puts out there, whether there's rotation or not, is still a strong team, and the team's always picked for the occasion rather than say the players are not always performing that well. It has nothing to do with that. This is what Pep thinks will win, and I think it's, like you said, a very, very strong team. It is a very strong team, but some people will be noticing that Rodri isn't in the starting 11, but it's an opportunity for a midfield which is De Bruyne, Nunes and Kovacic. Do you think the defensive midfielder, or that role that Rodri's going to play, is going to be done by Kovacic? Yeah, I would say, because he is good at like starting play off and moving forward with the ball and playing through the gaps. He will be able to dictate the ball in there, but I think if you remember the last game we played there, we had a lot of possession, especially high up in the pitch, so I think Kovacic is in there for more so that reason. We know we're going to have the ball a lot, we know we're going to be further up the pitch, and we just got pre-prepared for them in transition, really, especially the way they do break.
We will have the Luton team news, which we will react to a little bit later on. Let's talk about Jack Grealish. Back in the starting 11, he was so unlucky in Copenhagen. Started the game really well, unfortunately came off with an injury. He's back fit, and that's a massive boost for us, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a massive boost, because we saw Jack at the back end of last season how his performances got better and better, and more important things he started doing in the game, scoring and assisting a lot with Haaland. So can't wait for him to get back to that form.
Now, there's been a lot of excitement, a lot of great social media work by the Man City team on a signing. Oscar Bob. He signed a new contract, 2029, 5-year deal. He's deserved it. But it's a massive boost for him and for us as well, isn't it?
Well, as everyone knows, I'm a massive fan of Oscar Bob anyway, so I'm glad to see the way he's going, and the way he's been weaned in and weaned out is a similar trajectory of say a Phil Foden when he first broke through. He's been patient, but every time he does get on the pitch, he seems to be taking his chances. He seems to have really, really close control as well, doesn't he, Sean? And he seems not scared to take a fullback on it. Reminds me a little bit of the man I'm stood next to. Do you see a lot of qualities in him in that sense as well? I see a lot of qualities in him in that sense, yes, but I think in today's modern game it's completely different to how it was when I played, and I think the way he plays he could have played in my time and now time, because he is direct when he needs to be, but he's very good at maintaining possession of the ball and also finding those key passes that we've seen him do loads and loads before. Well, we are so happy, of course, that he has signed a contract. Let's head back to the studio and get the reaction from everyone there.
Thanks so much to FG and to Sean Wright-Phillips. You picked up on something there,
Yeah,
Paul?
he admitted he was very, very small.
Very.
Very, very. I'm only small, but he's very, very small.
Love Sean Wright Phillips. He's wrapped up warm as well. It must be cold down there at Kenilworth Road this evening. So your Manchester City team news is on your screen now. That is the starting 11. So I make that 4 changes from the team that beat Bournemouth at the weekend. Stefan Ortega, as expected, comes into the starting 11. Kyle Walker, our captain, is back. And then Kevin, De Bruyne and Jack Grealish back in the starting 11 for tonight's game as well. You can see Pep and the team are arriving now. I mean, Nicky, straight away looking at that starting 11, is that stronger than you expected?
Yeah, I mean, he never really amazes you, Pep, because he always goes strong, doesn't he? He obviously changes most games, but he's gone really strong. Obviously, the standout names are Haaland and De Bruyne are in there. But me and Dickie were just talking, the bench is ridiculous. So if he needs them to come on at any point, they'll be ready and waiting. But yeah, very, very strong lineup.
That man, Stefan Ortega, starts, as he did in all of the FA Cup games last year. I'm still so annoyed about that penalty, by the way, because he would have gone the whole FA Cup and not conceded a goal. But he's exceptional goalkeeper, isn't he? How highly do you rate him?
Whenever I've seen him, he's done really, really well. He's a typical Pep kind of goalie, really happy with the ball in possession. And, you know, if you play him, listen, I think Edison's fantastic, but if you do play Ortega, you're not really weakening the team, because he brings his own, you know, skills and to the game as well. So yeah, he's absolutely done fantastic. It's difficult for him because he knows his position, doesn't play very often, but when he does, he's always impressed me.
How important then is it for Stefan Ortega for these FA Cup games, so that he keeps the mental focus, he keeps the being, you know, playing in the starting 11?
It is, and I think I've said before on the show, we've done a podcast with him earlier on in the season. Asked him the same question: how do you prepare yourself? And Nicky, at the end of what I'm saying, might be able to do it better than me, but he said he trains every single day as if he's going to start every single game. He said, and obviously he knows that Ederson more often than not in the Premier League is going to start in the Champions League unless there's an injury. He said, but he has to get his mind right. He said, and it's something he's been able to do from a young age. He said 14, 15-year-old as he was breaking through. He said in Germany they drummed it into you to prepare every single day as if you're going to play, regardless of what age you were at or what club you were at. So I think that's the thing that impresses me the most about him, because whenever he comes in, he looks as if he's been playing every single week. You might be able to.
And so that's what you want from a number 2 keeper, isn't it? There's obviously a definite 1 and 2, but you do have to, you know, you train and prepare and then just don't play. But you've got to be ready for injuries. And if there was an injury to Edison and he had to play a run of 8, 10, 12 games, you'd have no qualms with that. And yeah, he's so good with the ball. He manipulates the ball. He'll stand with it under his foot. He can, you know, clip it in with both feet. He's probably not got the long 70, 80-yard pass that Edison's got, but I don't think many goalkeepers have in the world. But yeah, when I've seen him, which is quite a few times now, he's done very well.
Obviously, he was starting at his old club in Germany. He was the number 1 keeper. He had a great record there. So I remember when he signed, it was so impressive. He's come here knowing that he's going to be number 2. What is that like? Because obviously, the goalkeeping world is so different. Because you go to a club and there is a starting goalkeeper. So what do you think that was like for him?
Well, it's better than being number 3, that is for sure. But yeah, you sort of know, but you fancy your chances. You've got to back yourself. You want to challenge him. I think they're a really tight-knit group as well with Scott Carson. So whenever I see the goalkeepers working together, it always looks like a good camaraderie between them. But yeah, it's a mental thing. He's obviously, you know, changed, you know, from Germany to coming over here, probably knowing he's not going to play every game, but he does get a few games. But he's joining a club that's winning things, been very successful. And yeah, he's obviously part of a very special time in the club's history. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, you know, how long he does stay for, because obviously Edison's still quite young as well, so he's hopefully got many, many years to play at City. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see the longevity of him here, because he might want to go and, you know, be a number 1 week in, week out, but he's obviously accepting his position and gets on with it, and, you know, he's obviously a good lad and trains hard and, like we said, prepares to play every week, knowing he's probably not going to.
I think it'll be massively important tonight, the way Luton play, you know, because they like to put a lot of balls in the box, play for set pieces, long throws and everything else. So we might have to see, but that used to us having possession and not really been tested that much. So the saves he has made, his concentration levels have had to be really, really high. But tonight, I think Luton will be putting the ball in there right on top of him and trying to test him at every opportunity they get.
I think it is a proper FA Cup tie tonight. When we were down there early on the season, we said it felt like an FA Cup tie then. So yeah, so when you go to the Etihad and, you know, all the top grounds in the Premier League, you don't get sort of corners whipped in and crosses whipped in. But at Luton, that's what they do, and they put teams under pressure. So yeah, that'll probably be his biggest test tonight.
I hear he's very popular in the group as well. You hear when I've done interviews with other players, they often mention his personality and the way that he's fit in as well. In terms of the defence tonight, so it's Walker, Stones, Akanji, and Ake. At the weekend, we saw Stones playing, I don't know what you're going to call it, everywhere. But because he was everywhere, the other three were slotting in together. Do you see Stones playing in a similar position tonight, Paul? Could you see Walker, Akanji, and Ake going into that sort of back three?
Yeah, I can. I think. I mean, John's performance at Bournemouth on Saturday night was unbelievable. You know, to see he was further forward than Erling Haaland sometimes. You know, and it just shows you what a good footballer he is. And you know, when you think he's out of position and the attacks break down, you're wondering who's going to be at the back. But he always manages to give himself the opportunity to get back in there and sit into the back four. But I think that the way we want to play, and I think obviously the big talking point for everybody outside will be Rodri not playing tonight. But I thought Kovacic at the weekend was outstanding as well. Good to see Nunez getting another start as well. You know, that'll give his confidence a massive thing and a bit of momentum in doing it as well. But as in John Stones, I can see him turning up in the left wing, the number 10 position, and everything else. And I don't think there's any. I know Akanji's done it at times and done it very well, but I don't think there's another centre half in the world that could actually do what John Stones does as good as he does it.
Well, it's almost the John Stones role, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, he's like a hybrid player. And like you say, Akanji steps in, but Akanji's a bit more backwards and sideways, where John Stones, he'll take it on the half turn and sort of drive and commit people. So, yeah, he's a special player. He seems to have got better and better since he came to City. And, yeah, he's hugely important. And, yeah, I think it'll be known as the John Stones role for a long time.
I like that, because I was going to ask you, what would you call his position at the minute? Because I've got no idea, but I think if we all just agree the John Stones
And I think everyone will know what you mean, won't they?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody even outside the club would disagree with that either.
And then you see other managers trying to do it as well. I know Liverpool have had a little tinker with it as well. So yeah, it's maybe a trend that catches on. But yeah, Pep's created this role for him, and he's the ideal person to do it.
Do you think we might see him score at some point?
Well, if there's going to be a criticism of him, that he probably doesn't get into those positions. But yeah, hopefully he does, and he does everything else so well, doesn't he? So
he'll score tonight now.
Hopefully.
There you go.
Hopefully we've done that now. Now, you just mentioned Rodri. To be honest, I didn't want to go straight there because I was just trying to settle my nerves. The fact that our Rodri is not playing, because, of course, we all know the record that we have when he doesn't play, which I don't really want to talk about. And I'm hoping, Paul, tonight will be the night that we break that jinx.
I think it will be. As I said, I think Kovacic and Nunez were very, very good. And I love the look of Nunez, and that historically under Pep it takes players a little while to adapt to it, and he's not really there on the games that he has, but he's shown glimpses of how good he is carrying the ball. Kovacic, I just think, is a wonderful player. We keep talking about his CV, the clubs he's been at, the 5 Champions League that he's won, and he can make a real difference. And I would imagine he'll be the one that will sit tonight with Kevin and Nunez in front of him. So it's not, although Rodri's not there, you look at the 3 that's in there, it's not too bad, is it?
Will Kovacic's role tonight be slightly different, do you think, with Rodri not playing?
I think so. I think he'll be the one that will sit more often than not. And Pep said a couple of weeks ago he doesn't want Kevin De Bruyne to be the one that's picking up the ball off the back 4. And Matteo's done that for Croatia. He's done it for Real Madrid. He's done it at Chelsea for a couple of years. So it's a position that he's used to playing in there. I still think he's better going further forward, but playing in that number 6 role, the ability he's got, whether it's running with the ball or passing, he can break lines very, very well. And we'll need to do that tonight because it's going to be a tight, compact game. So the more players that we've got that can find the little spaces, little pockets, and break in between the lines, it's going to be more beneficial for us.
I have really enjoyed the moments where him and Erling have linked up as well this season. That's kind of surprising that I've had with the links they've had. In terms of the other midfield, obviously Kevin De Bruyne comes back into the starting 11. That means Phil Foden's having a bit of a rest, which I think is fair enough. He's been working very hard lately. But Kevin De Bruyne in the starting 11 is, every time now feels like a gift, Nicky.
Yeah, I think, when he was injured, which obviously was very unfortunate, you almost forgot how good he was, and he's come back sort of even better. And it was like having a new signing sort of when he come back. So yeah, listen, we all know how good he is, how influential he is, and just I don't think there's any better sight than when he picks the ball up and he starts driving at players and threading his passes through, and he strokes balls in the goal from 25 yards with his side foot like it's just a pass. So for me, he's getting to the point now where he's you know, one of the greatest ever Premier League players, and it is at such a good level now. But it's going to be important going forward to manage him. I think he's 32 now, so you know his minutes might have to be managed over the next season or two. But yeah, is you know, certainly been phenomenal since he come back, and his numbers prove that as well. So yeah, we're lucky to have him.
We're lucky to have him, and I really feel like we're lucky to have Jack Grealish as well, Paul. I really feel like we missed him in the Bournemouth game. I think he would have made a big difference with the way that he slows and controls the game. Questions have been asked about him this season. I think he set really high standards last year. Happy to see him back in the starting 11?
I'm delighted to see him back. You know, I'm a huge fan. I think everybody knows that. Last season, I don't think anybody can disagree that consistently he was probably our best player from the World Cup through to the end of the season. You know, we were down here earlier on the season. He took a lot of stick off the fans that day, so I'm sure he loved scoring the goal. And you know, gutted from the Copenhagen game because the first 10-15 minutes he started like the Jack that finished the last season. I know for a fact through speaking to him he's desperate to have a run of games now and keep fit, because it's been a stop-start season for him. He's had illnesses, he's had injuries, and then he's come back and then he's picked up another injury. So a fit and firing Jack Grealish coming to this end of the season with all the big games. And you know, it's no secret to anybody and no surprise to me. All the big games last season, whether it be Liverpool, whether it be United, whether it be Champions League, Jack started in them, and it's because of what he gives the team. He gets us up the pitch, he controls the ball. Pep always talks about the tempo that we play at. He's the one that does that as well. So great to see him back so soon as well. You know, because it looked as if he was going to be out a little bit longer. Surprised to see him on the bench at the weekend, but delighted to see him in the team tonight.
I feel like he's one of those players as well that the criticism he's getting from outside the club will fire him, will fire his belly, and will bring us.
Jack thrives on proving people wrong. He's had to do that since he's been at the club. Possibly when he broke through at Villa at a young age, people were saying, was he too slight? And then he bulked up, and then playing in a Villa team that relied on him too much. So there was always getting questions asked of him. And then they came here, the figure. People are always talking about his stats, but you know, you can look at stats all you want. The one thing Jack wants to know is that he's going to start, and we've got the best manager in the world that starts him more often than not, and that's all he needs.
Jack is like the proof that you cannot just look at stats. Like when people always talk about Jack's stats like they did last year, it used to infuriate me because he was so key to this team.
Yeah. It used to drive me mad, and it still does. But he's an easy target for people, you know, because he's at the best club in the world. He's obviously, people always go back to the transfer fee and everything else, but what he brings to the team, no other player can do that. And as I said before, you know, all the big games we had last season, and I expect it if Jack stays fit from now to the end of the season, I can guarantee you Jack Grealish will probably start.
Pep said just in his pre-match interview just a minute ago that all Jack needs to do tonight is to be himself. And I love that.
That's what we want.
Yes, he does. Quick look at the bench as well. You mentioned it before, Nicky. So in terms of attacking on the bench, obviously we've got Doku, Alvarez, Foden, Oscar Bob. We've also got Luis, Gomez, obviously Rodri, Diaz and Edison on the bench. Should we need anything, there is some serious attacking talent there that can come on.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, so Alvarez, you know, World Cup winner. Oscar Bob, who's just signed his new contract. You know, you've got Rodri on if you need to protect anything for the last 10 or 15 minutes. So there's various options there. It always makes me, you know, think a little bit with Pep and his substitutions, because he was a big advocate of the 5 subs and all that, but he doesn't seem to make that many subs. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he does tonight. You know, if you get 2 or 3 up, then I'm sure 1 or 2 of the big ones will come off for a rest and give a few others a few minutes.
I would like that. I would like some of them to get a rest, obviously, ahead of the weekend's game, which we'll talk about later on as well. Let's not start worrying about that yet. If you would like to ask our guests a question, you can do so. As always, the WhatsApp number is on your screen. Now, we don't have Nicky very much, so you must have loads of burning questions for Nicky Weaver. So get your questions in now on WhatsApp, and I'll get through as many as I can. So we know the City starting 11 for tonight. Let's have a look at our opponents now. This is the Luton team. So this is 3 changes for Luton from the team that lost in their last game against Liverpool. So in goal, it's Krul, Ogbeni, Burke, Mengi, Bell, Doughty, Barkley, Clark, Chong, Woodrow and Morris, who is the captain. And the subs there are on the screen. So that team for you, Paul, immediate thoughts on the Luton team?
Especially at Kenilworth Road. You know, the 3 at the back, the 2 wing-backs, and Doughty one side and Ogbeni the other side, you know, really quick, want to push up. And then, you know, they'll miss Adebayo, the big centre forward, you know, because he's a focal point for everything that you do. I know he scored against us down there as well. But a lot of the things, whether they play out for the back, because they can mix it up. People think they're just a long ball team, and they will play if they can. But he's the focal point. I know Morris, the captain, is in there, and he's a big physical presence for them. But it doesn't give them what Adebayor does. And it'll be interesting how they set up. I don't know if the first half down there, they actually went man-to-man all over the pitch. It was so brave. We couldn't believe what we were watching. You know,
I think that's the key word that Paul's used there, brave. Yeah. And Ross Barkley that afternoon was fantastic. And he's having sort of, you know, he actually came to Sheffield Wednesday when I was still playing there, and he was 18 at the time. And it was light in the Championship up at 18, and you knew. I think he's almost had from where he started his career, he's almost not really fulfilled his potential, and it looked like he was going to drift away, but he's come back at Luton, done really well. But yeah, he's a special player. He was fantastic that afternoon, and yeah, he's one who they're talking about forcing his way back into the England squad.
Because they caused us a lot of problems in the first half, especially, and that's because they went. I think it was Haaland and Phil Foden that played off them. The centre halves were going all the way in to Man City's half to pick them up, and leaving so much space behind. But it caused a problem for us trying to play out from the back. In the second half, Man City had to go longer, didn't we? Ederson kicking the ball long.
Jack got the winner, didn't he? Sort of late on, so you know, and then we were hanging on a little bit towards the end. So it was anything but comfortable. Obviously, we got the win, but it certainly wasn't comfortable. That is for sure.
We saw Ross Barkley. Oh, there he is, right there. Really interesting season for him, because he mentioned it. People had such high hopes for him. He was so highly rated. He went to Chelsea. Perhaps it was a little underwhelming. He's come here, and everybody's noticed him again. And then apparently, I read somewhere in the week that Manchester United are sniffing around him because he has the links with Sir Jim Radcliffe from Nice. So, I mean, eyes are all on him again, Paul.
I think there'll be a lot of clubs watching him because he's formed this season. He's been outstanding for them. You know, whether he's played in the deeper role, picking up the ball from the back four and driving them forward, or a little bit forward, creating chances. And the one thing Ross has always had is an unbelievable talented footballer, isn't he? He'll pick up the balls in the area, he glides past people. And he's had his rough times, but it looks as if he's really enjoying playing. I don't want to call Luton a smaller club, but the atmosphere that they've got, they're a tighter squad, tight-knit squad, and a manager who obviously gives him a lot of responsibility and believes in him. You know, and if he does make mistakes, it's not getting highlighted as much as he did when he was at Chelsea, or the times he played for England. People couldn't wait to jump on him for the mistakes he was making, rather than looking what he can give the team. And you know, he's given Luton Town a hell of a lot more than mistakes that he's maybe done before.
I think the key word there is enjoying himself. It looks like he's really enjoying himself. There's no real pressure on Luton to do anything, and it'll be interesting to see. Listen, there's every chance Luton might slip out of the Premier League, and then he's proved himself back in the Premier League this year, so I'm sure he'll have options next year. But yeah, he's done terrific this year. So
we're talking about an England squad for the
he's
Euros
still
as
not
well.
that old. You know, so
I don't know how old he is, but I feel like he's been around forever.
Yeah,
he'll be 30-ish.
Young. Young to me,
very
that.
young.
Young.
A young pup,
Yeah, he is 30, yes. Young, in his prime,
Yeah, listen, he could have a good few years left in him, and you know, he's obviously missed quite a lot of football, and he might get that at the back end of his career, and yeah, he could go on for another, 3, 4, 5 years at the top level.
In terms of goalkeeper, they made a change for tonight. Of course, Kaminsky has been so reliable. He's their general number one. They've brought in Krul tonight. Do you think that is similar to what we've done?
Yeah, I think they just changed the goalkeeper of the cup competitions. That's what they've done. Listen, Tim Krul, you know, he's played at the top level. He was at Newcastle for many years, went out to Brighton, had a spell, and he was at Norwich. And yeah, he's been a top goalkeeper. Played for Haaland, their national team. So yeah, it won't faze him. He may be a little bit rusty, because he obviously hasn't played much football. But
I think he's played their other cup games as well. So
yeah, he's only played a couple of games. But again, he's similar to Ortega. He's in that number 2 role. He knows where he is. Kaminsky's pretty reliable, the first choice goalkeeper. So yeah, but listen, he's hugely experienced. Lots of international caps, loads of games in the Premier League. So I'm sure it won't faze him.
I'm really glad you mentioned before, looking at my notes, Adebayor's not playing because obviously he had that goal against us. When you look at that Luton team, then where do you think the danger, given that you watched them against us, where is the real danger for us? Where do you think their goals could come from? I
think it's stopping Ross Barkley, getting space to drive it as. Morris, the centre forward, he's a willing runner. He'll be looking to run in behind. He's a physical presence up there. I was going to say he's not the tallest. That's good coming from me, innit? But he's probably about 5'11", 6 foot. But he's very physical. He backs in. He links the play up a lot. And Ogbenny's very quick. So I think Luton will be looking, because we do play a high line, maybe to try and press us high and get us in behind. But you know, Adebayo not being there, it's whether they throw as many balls into the box as what they have done previously, because he's a huge player for them.
In terms of, again, it's one of those kind of generic-y questions that I get annoyed when I hear people ask, but I also feel like I need to ask. In terms of, you mentioned Luton might slip out of the Premier League. They're in the relegation zone at the minute. An FA Cup game, how important is that for their season? Where does it sit for them?
Well, listen, the priority is staying in the Premier League. Whether they can do that remains to be seen. I think they've been sort of a breath of fresh air. It's a great story where they were sort of 6-7 years ago, you know, out of the Football League, and they've got back to the Premier League via the playoffs. Absolutely unbelievable for them. But yeah, as a manager and a group of players and a group of supporters, you want to win games of football. And, you know, if they win tonight, for example, it might start a little run-off for them. And if they're going to stay in the Premier League, they've got to put a couple of little runs together. So it's a hugely important game for them. They'll have bigger games coming up, don't get me wrong, but this could be the start of something. And, you know, what it would do if they did cause a shock and beat City, it would just instill, you know, belief, you know, within the whole club, the supporters, the staff and the players. So, yeah, they'll want to win the game equally as much as City.
It's going to be an incredible atmosphere, I'm sure, tonight at Kenilworth Road. As you know, they were both there at the game in the league. They went down on a minibus with Gareth Taylor as well, Andy and the Goat. Yeah. And FG was on the minibus as well. So I'm going to say, hey, FG, let's go back over to Kenilworth Road to FG and to Sean Wright-Phillips. But hey, FG, I'm going to say you clearly were not a very good minibus passenger because they're both in the studio tonight.
Oh, right, OK, well, thank you very much, Natalie, and thank you to the legends in the studio. I guess that's what happens when you wake up at 7 a.m. and have to see me. But let's move on to the Luton team news. We've seen the Luton side. Let's start with the goalkeeper. Tim Krul, penalty specialist. We need a result tonight. He's got a big role to play either way, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's going to have a massive role to play. I think the way City play, they're always going to create chances and have shots on goal. So he's going to have to bring his A game to keep them out, to even consider the penalty situations. First, he has to do the 120 minutes, and then that comes after, if that's successful in that. But hopefully, we hope not. That's not going to be the case.
Now, Adebayo is not in the squad today, so I want to touch on that a little bit because he's a big aerial presence. He got the goal here last time. It's a big miss in a game like this, isn't it?
It's a massive miss. I think that if you see that game since he's been out injured or if he hasn't been playing, it's that aerial threat they lack within the box. He's hunger and desire to get in at the back post or put his head where it hurts. Before there was obviously two of them with him and Morrison up there, but now it's just Morrison. So it's a little bit harder for Doughty, who is a great crosser of the ball, to hit just one person all the time.
Ross Barkley, a lot of people have been speaking about Ross Barkley. He's sort of reinvented himself. We already knew how good of a player he was, but his career sort of stagnated a little bit, but he's really reinvented himself here, hasn't he? And he feels like he's the main player in this starting 11 today.
Yeah, well, he got another chance in football, which not a lot of people got. He got given that. Rob Edwards believed in him, and Rob Edwards basically turned him into the player who he was when he first started, before he moved to Chelsea. He lost his way a little bit, which can happen, but he's come here and showed people the calibre of player he's been. He's been phenomenal for them in creating chances, counter-attack, getting goals himself, headers unbelievably as well, which he's been phenomenal. I'm glad I'm here to watch him, to be honest, as well.
Now, we need a result tonight, like I just mentioned, so it will potentially go to extra time or penalties. What is the game plan, do you think, for Luton today? Do you think they're going to sit back behind the ball, make it difficult like they did in the league game, and try and potentially get something, albeit they haven't got Adebayo, but they've got options and they've got players and they'll be looking for set pieces?
I would have said that would have been Luton at the start of the season. Now, I think they're a completely different outfit. I think whoever comes here or wherever they go, they give them a run for their money. So I can imagine they're going to make it as difficult and in certain ways as ugly as possible for City and make it an awkward game, and they're going to try and maybe get a goal early if possible, and then it's a different situation for them.
Now, we expect, of course, City to have the majority of the ball in this. And looking at their midfield, there's also Clark in there, and there's also Chong in there, who are going to be real. Chong's going to be a real outlet for them, isn't he, on the break? And that's what they're going to look to do, hit us on the break, do you think?
Yeah, well, they have to, with a team like City that keep the ball so often, and at times they can have you pinned in your own third and not even be threatening at goal straight away. So they have to be ready to hit them in transition, and they have the players in there with the speed and pace and quality to do that. So that will be their main threat, I would say, but they're not going to lay down and take it from us.
No, they're absolutely not. Now, let's have a quick word, shall we, on the people in the studio. Nicky Weaver, great goalkeeper. Paul Dickoff, great striker. Natalie Pike.
Hashtag amazing.
Hashtag back to the studio.
Love Sean Wright-Phillips. I love him so much. When I have a bad
Great
time...
answer that, by the way, because FG was trying to stitch you up there.
He really was, by the way. But you know what? Sean Wright-Phillips is my rock. Last week, when something bad happened to me, he was the first person I called. Love you, Sean Wright-Phillips. Always.
We all do.
Always. Thank you so much to Sean Wright-Phillips and to FG. Now, last week, I'm sure you all saw, there was a big announcement from a former Manchester City icon, as of course, Premier League winner, FA Cup winner, League Cup winner, Joe Hart has announced that he will retire from football at the end of the season. He's, of course, at Celtic just now. He's had a very good couple of years at Celtic. Before I ask Nikki and Paul their memories, their thoughts about Joe Hart, I'd love to hear yours as well. The WhatsApp number is on your screen, so send in your memories, your best Joe Hart moments, as I'd love to read some of those out as well. Got to come to you first, though, as the keeper, Nikki. I was a little bit surprised because he's 37, and I feel like that's still young in keeper world.
Well, I'd been retired a couple of years at 37, but I think for Joe, you know, reading his statement and what he's had to say, I think he just wants to do it on his own terms. Obviously, he's had an unbelievable career. There were perhaps question marks whether he would stay at Celtic or not, and I think he must have just felt that, you know, he wanted to finish at the top. Hopefully for him personally, they can win the league up there as well. He's won pretty much everything to win in Scotland the last few years, and yeah, he's had a remarkable career. You know, I first met him when he was 18. You could see, you know, as soon as I remember the first day I trained with him, you could see he was going to be a top keeper. I don't think you could ever say he's going to get 75 England caps, or however many it is, and win this Premier League and FA Cups and everything else he's won and have the career he's had. But you could certainly see he had the talent, and he had a real desire to keep the ball out of the net. And yeah, he was a great lad as well. I'm sure Paul will echo that as well. Great lad. And yeah, just I think when you know someone and look at the career they had, yeah, you're sort of proud to have played with him and got to know him, and yeah, he was a great lad from the start, and he's had a great career. So I think he obviously knows his body and doesn't get any easier as you get older. So yeah, he's calling time on his career, and you know what a career he's had.
So remind us, when he came here, you were number one, and he came in as an 18-year-old.
Yes. So we signed him in the summer from Shrewsbury. David James left, and we also signed Andreas Isaacson. But I started off that season and...
stick insect.
Like, yeah, the stick insect. Yeah, we used to put him under the heat lamp before training. Not Joe, that was Andreas. But yeah, so I remember this game. It was Joe's first game.
Were you injured in this game?
The day before, I was walking off from training, and I just did a couple of shots with one of the younger lads, and I just tweaked my back. And I had a fitness test on the Saturday morning, and it wasn't quite right. So I rung Harty straight away and just said, listen, you know, I'm not going to make it today. You'll be playing. So, and I think it was a 0-0 draw against Sheffield United.
He kept a clean sheet.
I don't think he didn't play the rest of that season, I don't think. But you know, he kept a clean sheet, did well, and yeah, that was a sign of things to come for him.
Yeah, he went on loan a few times, I think, after that. But yeah, that of course was his debut. As happens to goalkeepers, and they have to take their chance when they get them. What's your first memories? When did you first meet Joe Hart?
So I don't. A lot of people don't know. When I re-signed in 2006, Joe, as a 17, nearly 18-year-old, signed in the same day. So I've came back into Carrington with Stuart Pearce and Steve Wigley, and Joe was there with his dad, and his dad had a big influence in his career. And we both went off to do our medicals, and obviously he was a young whippersnapper. His medical lasted about 45 minutes. Mine's lasted about 3 days. So I was about 30, and I'm not joking with that either. I had to keep going back for scans. And you could tell straight away that he was a top boy, first and foremost. You know, super humble. Great kid, fantastic upbringing, but you could tell he was a really good goalkeeper. He started training as well, and you know, been fortunate enough now to, from that day in 2006, became really good friends with him. Still keeping contact with him now, and the one thing we've said before was that the desire that he had to keep the ball out of the net was there, even if it was in training. They're off their heads, these goalkeepers, but if you used to score against them in training, they used to go absolutely nuts. And Harty was no different, but some unbelievable memories that he's given Man City fans. You know, the performances, you know, I always remember the Bayern Munich, Dortmund, the Barcelona game away, and then the celebration when Aguero scored, and that famous moment as well. So But listen to his statement, it sounds as if he's about ready to do it, and you know, Nicky said before, on his terms as well. And the one thing that stood out for me in his statement, he said they're asking what he was going to do next, and he said, "No, I've got a lot left in me and a lot left to do, but it's just not being a goalkeeper."
I was at that Barcelona game. It was unbelievable. He had so many unbelievable performances. I mean, what was he like? So he comes in as an 18-year-old, because we know him now, obviously, as this confident leader, very vocal keeper at the back. Was he like that at 18, or is that something he's grown into?
Certainly something he's grown into. I think he was quietly confident, but he certainly wasn't loud and leery or anything. And he just, I remember that his first day he came in, I sort of went over, introduced myself as, you know, a senior goalkeeper at the club, if you like, and I just said, listen, if you need any help, let me know. Any questions or, you know, timings or anything. And yeah, he was just a really, really good lad. And like I said, it was him and Kasper Schmeichel sort of came through sort of together, if you like. So a real healthy, competitive relationship with them two. And yeah, you could see how good he was going to be. But, you know, as I said before, the desire that he had to improve himself and get better day on, day out. And I sort of knew about him before he came, because Tim Flowers was our goalkeeping coach at the time. And if we played on a Sunday or a Friday night or a Monday or whatever it was, Tim would always go to Shrewsbury on a Saturday afternoon to watch Joe. So when he kept saying, "Oh, I've been to watch Joe Hart again," he did really well. So.
That's only because it was around the corner from his house.
Yeah, absolutely. He put his expenses in, I'm sure. But yeah, so I was aware of him before he came, and then when he came, yeah. You know, but my sort of fondest memory of him has just been a lovely fella and someone who worked really hard.
Oh, I think he's going to be...
He's not the quickest, is he? But
I wouldn't race him, I'm telling you.
Hang on a minute.
Here we go. I love that.
But that's that desire.
Look at his face.
That's the desire we're talking about. Look, I mean, he's absolutely sprinting here. You know.
Do you think Sean Wright would have jumped for that, by the way? Do you think he would have got his head to that?
No. I mean, we're looking at, you know, highlight really and some of his saves, and you know, he was agile, he was brave, he was quick around his goal. He had a great spring. Big lad. He had good reach. He had a big wingspan. And yeah, I mean it's breathtaking, really. It's up. Remember he made one at West Ham once as well, I think, right, a bit similar right out the top corner. But yeah, fantastic goalkeeper. Some incredible moments, you know. I think he was quite unlucky when he actually left, because Pep had sort of already made his mind up on him, hadn't he, before, you know, before he came in, if you like.
In terms of his CV, if I was Joe Hart, at the top of my CV, it would say saved penalty from Lionel Messi, and then underneath them brackets and Ibrahimovic. Literally, I would die off that story for the rest of my life, Paul. Does he talk about it?
He doesn't, and he's super humble in what he does. You know, I remember numerous saves that he made, but that Barcelona game is the one that will always stick out for me. I think it finished 0-0, didn't it? And I think he saved, must have been 9, 10, 11 shots in that game. But no, I mean, people forget that he had his setbacks as well, and he bounced back from that, you know, when he left the club. I know, and that was in good terms with everybody else, but I know that Joe was a bit disappointed. He never ever wanted to leave. He felt that he still had a lot to offer here, and then obviously losing his England place, and I just think it shows you the mark of the guy, the way he has bounced back and gone up to Scotland, won the treble last year as well, so maybe that's in his thoughts.
I think it's brilliant as well that, you know, he's not just drifted and, you know, been a number two. I know he has been number two when he was at Spurs and what have you, but he's not just withered away.
He's always wanted to come back and play.
Gone back and played at good level in Scotland, won everything there is to win up there, and he's finishing right at the top, so, you know, all credit to him.
Yeah.
If you were having on your CV the best penalty that you ever saved, who would be your Lionel Messi?
It wouldn't be Lionel Messi, that is for sure. It'd obviously be Guy Butters for in the Gillingham game, but yeah, it wasn't obviously a big occasion for us too, but it wasn't on the sort of global stage that Joe saved his famous penalties. So yeah, but listen, great guy, he had a great career.
Now, I'm going to give you a little quick test on something here. Joe Hart holds a Premier League record for a goalkeeper. Any ideas what... I'm going to tell you random record he holds for a keeper in the Premier League. I don't think you'll ever get it, I'm not going to lie. I'm just being mean.
Any ideas?
Not got a clue.
Quickest sprint back to your goal? In that one we've just seen?
In that one? No, but it's as random as that. he has the Premier League record for a goalkeeper for having the most throw-ins in a game.
Yeah. There you go.
Of course, Nicky.
I've got a quiz question that includes Joe.
OK.
There's only 3 players that have ever won the
I know the answer to this.
the League Cup and the FA Cup in Scotland and England.
I know the answer because...
And Joe's one of them,
and
obviously.
I spent the day today with one of the others and brought it up. So...
Kenny Dalglish?
Yeah.
Kenny Dalglish and...
There's a third one.
There's a third one, yeah. He played across the road.
Yeah. And he played here. Came in loan here.
Mm-hmm.
Dennis Lowe?
No.
Go on.
Good guess, though.
You would have played with him here, I think. Yeah.
What I'm thinking. He's thinking, yeah.
Go on.
Kanchelskis.
Yeah, played with Andrea, yeah.
Yeah, won all 3 trophies in Scotland and in England.
Yeah.
Like
Some
that
player
one.
as well, wasn't
He was. Great lad.
Great lad as well.
Great trivia, that one.
Yeah.
Love that. By the way, the 3 throw-ins were in the QPR game, obviously. At that point, I imagine we were chucking everybody up. Joe was taking everything at the back.
I don't think I ever took a throw.
I don't think I ever did.
Well, love that. And you know, obviously everybody sends their love to Joe Hart. What an absolutely phenomenal, incredible career. Now, FG has managed to find a special guest who's going to tell us their thoughts about Joe Hart. They're over at Kenilworth Road.
Yes, I absolutely have found a special guest, and it's only right I'm joined by a member of the Goalkeeper Union, David James, as we talk about Manchester City legend Joe Hart. First things first, what a goalkeeper and what a career he had.
Yeah, well, thank you for inviting me on, talking about goalkeepers. Joe Hart, as Righty knows, ex-teammate. When he came to City, straight away I was like, well, this kid is going to be good. And he didn't disappoint.
And Sean, what are your memories of Joe Hart?
The times we had away from football, to be honest with you, away from the game, he was pretty much the same as he was on the pitch. He was a happy guy, always wanted to impress, and away from the game he was like that as well. Bubbly, fun, nice person to be around, and that was it really, Joe. Sorry buddy, you're just decent.
We'll come to that decent in a bit, believe me, will. It's decent, by the way. Speaking of decent, Joe Hart, his qualities as a goalkeeper. As a goalkeeper yourself, what is it you noticed about him straight away?
Well, the one thing, and again, when he was I think we had a pre-season in Asia. Balls are getting crossed into the box. He was coming out catching them, and I'm like, okay. Like Sean said, I mean, just a bubbly guy. Funny enough, can I tell you a story? World Cup 2010, we had a dartboard at the hotel, and everyone had a nickname. I've actually forgotten mine, but his was One Dart Hart. So on my phone, he is saved as One Dart, and I messaged him, "What's going on, One Dart?"
Right, okay, well that's interesting. One Dart Hart, so he was good at darts as well as football.
I didn't say he was good. I just said he was called One Dart Hart.
Did you play any darts with Joe Hart, Sean?
No, I definitely didn't. I'm terrible at it. I know that from my past. I wasn't going to try and step into it again.
Well, one thing's for certain, we were so grateful to have Joe Hart in a Manchester City shirt, and we wish him all the best for the rest of the season and his career going forward. I think it's only right we head to the studio. Funnily enough, it's like we've got Nicky Weaver and Paul Dickoff here. So let's head back to Nicky Weaver and Paul Dickoff.
Except I'm taller than UFG, so the 3 doesn't match. Right, they mentioned there a pre-season tour to somewhere in Asia. These 2 immediately started laughing. I wish we had a camera on them. What happened that made you both start laughing? What happened on the tour in Asia?
Just a good trip, Dickie, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I had to reintroduce myself to the boys because I just re-signed, let's put it that way.
Yeah, we just signed Didier Man as well, I think.
We had some characters on that trip, yeah.
Joe Hart. I actually roomed with Joe Hart on that trip. So yeah, it was a good trip.
Is that all we're getting?
Well, it was just a really good trip,
was,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know.
Great bunch of lads.
It was very hot as well. I remember it being very hot.
OK, I am taking the hint here that I cannot push any further on what happened on this pre-season tour, but...
Nothing bad happened.
I would expect nothing less from you, Mr Dickoff, nothing less. Although I did also hear about your little road trip that you had to Luton back when we played them at the end of last year. You all went down, we mentioned it a little bit earlier, because we thought we'd get together the team that was the last team that played Luton at Kenilworth Road. It was in 1999. We got a big part of the band, not the whole band, a large part of the band back together, although, Nikki, you have now referred to them as the worst boy band ever. Yourself, Paul, Gareth Taylor, Andy Morrison and Sean Goater were 5 of the team that played at Kenilworth Road that day. We put them on a minibus with FG. Shall we have a look at something? You want to see it? Let's have a look at some of the trip.
I am so looking forward to this.
It's like the worst boy band reunion ever.
The party bus, you know, mate.
25 years ago, I scored a goal here at Luton.
Towards the back post, Morrison's there with a magnificent header.
Disappointed that Andy scored a goal. I really am.
It's not changed a bit since I played here.
And then it's a brilliant goal, Bernardo Silva.
Come on!
Love it. I was so jealous. I so wanted to be on that minibus that day. Did you have a good day?
It was brilliant, wasn't it?
Great day, yeah.
Obviously, we see each other sporadically, but not as a whole. And yeah, it was a good day. And obviously, you know, City got the right result in the end as well. So yeah, it was a good day. Great to spend. You know, sometimes you see the lads, but it's you know 5 minutes here and there. But we were sat for hours on the minibus together, and obviously sat right behind the dugout of the match. So yeah, it was a fantastic day.
They panned to you as we were watching it in here, and they panned to you all, the line of you behind Pep, and I was like, oh my God, look at them all. Best seats in the house you had.
It was, and it was one of the best days I've had in a long time. You know, as Nicky said there, we see a lot of each other, but we don't really get the chance to sit and chat. And the couple of hours or so we're in the minibus, it was as if we were back 25 years ago. The banter, the taking the mick out of each other, the football chat and everything else. So that was great. It was great to see the guys again.
Here you got picked up in a service station.
Yeah, well, I've lived in Sheffield.
Not the first time.
And yeah, I met them sort of at Watford Gap, halfway down there, and yeah, I think we tried to do a bit of filming in the service station. Actually, got asked to leave because we'd not got any permission to film inside there. So yeah, but it was great to catch up with the lads, and obviously they've been together for a couple of hours before I jumped on. But yeah, soon got into the flow of the banter and everything.
Was there loads of City fans in the service station? What did they do when they spotted you all? I bet there was, it was like seeing the Beatles.
Well, it wasn't until the film crew come in, sort of asking you questions, and someone's asking you to leave. There's a load of Newcastle fans there. I think they were playing Spurs or something that day, and yeah, it was busy at the services, yeah, but it's always nice to see City fans when you see them. And then, you know, we had a little walk once we parked up, didn't we, into the stadium, and we had the best seats in the house. So yeah, it was, like I said earlier, we got the win, which was the main thing. So yeah, we all had a great day.
Did you do reminiscing of the last time? Could you all remember the last game?
We couldn't get a word in from Andy Morrison.
Andy Morrison telling us that he scored, wasn't it? and what goal it was in. He couldn't actually remember what goal it was in. I still think he got it wrong at the end.
Is that one? No, it was that one. It was that one. I'm sure we got it wrong. We weren't sure, but yeah, Andy, you know, it must have reminded us 1,000 times about that goal.
Sounds like Neddy Manua. His Copenhagen goal as well. We'll never hear the end of that one. We've got loads of questions that have come in on WhatsApp. Thank you so much for sending all your questions in. But I'm going to go straight to this one at the top, Nikki, that's come from Andrew Sharp. Thanks for asking this, Andrew, because it means I don't need to. I have a 6-year-old son, Reggie, who plays in net. I don't know what that says about his personality, Nikki. I'm not going to ask at the minute. But Andrew Sharp would like to know, what are the key skills needed by a young goalkeeper these days when playing under Pep compared to when you played for us?
Well, you've got good with your feet, haven't you? I mean, when I first got into the team, people said I was good with my feet, but I wasn't. I could just kick with both feet, and that at the time was classed as being good with your feet. But as we talked about earlier with Joe Hart, not being quite a Pep sort of goalkeeper, you know, with your feet now, it's almost like you're a midfielder in goal. But you'll still be judged on what you let in. So I think one thing you will have though is what you need is what we spoke about earlier with Joe Hart, is a real desire, you know, to keep the ball out of the net.
My son struggles with the concentration, which I imagine is similar to Edison. He plays on a team that's really good, and a lot of the time he's just standing there.
Well, I used to struggle with the concentration a bit. I think I mentioned it on the radio once. I used to, in a game sometimes, if the ball was down the other end, I used to close my eyes and see how long I dare close them for. So I'd maybe I shouldn't really probably say this, should I? But yeah. So I'd close my eyes, I'd hear the crowd, a bit of a reaction, I'd be on the halfway line. So I never got caught out, luckily.
Different breed, honestly.
Was that when we were getting relegated, Nick, or?
No, it was when we were getting promoted. But I used to look at the clock if they had the seconds on it, and I'd think, so I'd like close my eyes open, I've got 6 seconds there, or 4 seconds and stuff. But it was always when the ball was down the other end.
Was 6 seconds your record?
Possibly, yeah, 5 or 6, but it's just something to keep. It can be very boring in goal sometimes, and you can have a lot of inactivity for 10 or 20 minutes, and you know, I've not got a great attention span, you know. if you look at my school reports and things like that. But yeah, it's something that kept me going, and I used to always get more tired actually after a game when I had nothing to do, because you had to concentrate a lot more.
Yeah, I say to my son that all the time. You're like, Edison, you concentrate, and he's getting bored, though, to be honest. I'm not sure he's going to last as a keeper. Wants to get out and score the goals, Nick. It's all about the goal celebrations. Right, the next question. Thank you for that, Andy Sharp. Matt has said, if the panel could pick one player from our treble team to play in the 99 team, who would it be and why? You're not going to say Edison because that means you weren't playing. You're not going to say Haaland because that means you weren't playing. Who else?
I'll say Edison then, that one. I think it's got to be KDB.
Yeah.
I think he's got to be the one. He's just the best for me. I think.
Who are you kicking out?
We're not kicking.
He didn't ask that question. See, he didn't. Yeah, KDB.
Always KDB.
Could kick one Super Kev out for another one.
Yep. There you go.
And then Super Kev will remind you that he scored the first goal.
And he scored his penalty as well.
Scored his penalty, yes. Yes. Shout out. One Kev for another Kev.
I tell you, Bruyne. I'm only saying that because he's in there getting ready to go.
I would not say that about. I would not have taken you out, Michael Brown.
Anyway,
I would not. Thank you so much for those questions. Keep them coming in. I love your questions, so I'll try and get through some more of them at half time and at full time as well. If you are just joining us, very, very welcome to Matchday Live. Less than 10 minutes now from tonight's FA Cup game. 8 p.m. kickoff as we take on Luton at Kenilworth Road. The starting 11 is on your screen. 4 changes from the team that beat Bournemouth. You can see Ortega, Walker, Stones, Akanji, Ake, Kovacic, Nunes, Kevin De Bruyne, Silva, Grealish and Haaland. And of course we have a bench full of absolute superstars as well there. We are 10 minutes away from kickoff in tonight's game. Now, as we are creeping ever so closer, Nicky, how are you feeling? How are the nerves? What sort of game are you expecting?
I'm expecting a proper FA Cup tie. Listen, I expect City to win, expect City to dominate, but, you know, as we saw at the game earlier in the season, and Luton have caused a few, you know, bigger clubs' problems there. They haven't quite got over the line in some games, but it's going to be a tough game, and ultimately, it's about getting through and getting your name in the hat for the next round.
How tough do you think it's going to be tonight?
Yeah, like Nicky said, I think it's going to be tough. I think it'll be similar to the league game, whereas they'll look to start very well, presses, but I just think the quality we've got in the pitch, and for Luton to be able to sustain that pressure, how we play for 90 odd minutes, is going to be too much of an ask for them. You know, they fell short a few times this season, although doing really well, and I expect the same tonight. You know, and seeing Erling there, Jack, Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, the quality we've got in the pitch will see us through in the end. I've no doubt about it.
Very happy looking Erling Haaland as well. Big smiles there for him. Obviously, Saturday's game against Bournemouth and the game against Brentford last week, close games. We kept clean sheets, though, which I take as a huge positive. What do you want to see different from City than what they've done in those last 2 games?
Maybe put the chances away that we've created. Maybe make it a little bit more easier than what we have done. You know, we've dominated, we have had the chances, but we've got the goal, we've got the clean sheet and the win. But maybe just a little bit more comfortable in the last 5 or 10 minutes than what the last couple of games have been.
That'd be nice, not to be biting our nails.
Yeah. Can I just put my little thing in that's been winding me up as well?
Yes.
All the last couple of weeks. Everybody's saying about how we're not at our best and how we're stuttering along and it's not the same as last season. Nobody's mentioned that we're 17 games unbeaten, winning 15 and only drawing 2. So if we're not at our best, then that's what's happening with the rest of the season to come. Bring it on. Sorry, I just need to get off my chest now.
Listen to Paul Dickoff. Listen to him. I love that. And why would they? Because it wouldn't go with the narrative,
exactly.
Would it? Would it, Paul? Thank you very much. Right, we're going to go back over to Kenilworth Road to get the final thoughts from FG and the wonderful Sean Wright-Phillips.
Yes, thank you very much, Natalie. Here we are. The players are warming up behind us. It's time for our final thoughts going into the FA Cup. First things first, Sean. The players from both sides are warming up, and we just had a chat off camera about whether you have a little spy on the opposition goalkeeper or opposition players. Does that ever happen?
Oh yeah, of course, 100%. I think when I was warming up, whenever we had a break or a little spell where we was changing over into a different part of it, I'd always have a look over to see how the players are moving or what the goalkeeper's doing, because at some point you're coming up against that player. So if he looks uncomfortable in a certain situation, I'm going to attack that certain situation. And if the goalkeeper looks like he's going to fumble the ball, I'm going to shoot low and hard, so hopefully he fumbles it. But no, it's just one of those things, especially with shooting. If you see him drop a few or a few flying in the back of the net, first thing you say to your strikers is, as soon as you just get a sight on goal, let fly and see what you can do with it.
I wonder if the goalkeepers watch you guys with your shooting practice as well. What do you think anyone from the opposition obviously probably does the same? When you're playing away from home, do you take in your surroundings as well in the time when you're in the warm-up? Because obviously it's super close to the pitch, the away section is behind where the Man City players are warming up. Do you take all that in before, or is it just when kick-off happens out?
Well, I think it will be different for every other player. Everyone's going to have their own way, but I try to take in everything and try to embrace it, because you know in certain places like here, it's going to be hostile, so you have to learn to deal with it. I always thought embracing it, and if they give me a bit of banter, have a little laugh with them as well, like just to see, so they can see. You can say whatever you want, but it's not really going to get under my skin, sort of thing. And they normally laugh back at you and just keep going, basically.
Keep going at short right, Phillips. I'm sure when we're making our way down pitch time, we might get a little bit of banter because you're very well known here, which has been great to see. Also, the last thing as well, so your routine in a warm-up, is it the same every week?
Yes, it tends to be. I think a lot of the City fans, I don't know if they've seen all the City warm-up, but it may be different players, but you'll see similar things throughout the season because, hey, we won the treble last year doing this warm-up. Why are you going to change it now?
We absolutely did win a treble, and we are the defending champions of the FA Cup, so we're going to head back, enjoy the game. Let's go back to the studio.
Thanks so much to FD and to Sean Wright-Phillips at Kenilworth Road today. We'll be hearing more from them at half-time and at full-time. So the players are coming out into the tunnel there. Interestingly, Rob Edwards has said in his pre-match interview that Luton were hoping that John Stones wouldn't be playing tonight. So he's the one that they are most worried about. Can I get your score prediction, Nicky?
3-1 City.
Yes.
I'll do the same. That's what I was just going to say.
That's fine.
Yeah,
It doesn't have to be different.
I'll go 4-1.
There's no rules on this.
I'll go 4-1.
4-1. Love it, Paul. Thank you. Paul, thank you so much for being here this evening. Nicky, thank you very much. Been a pleasure. There we go. There's John Stones, the man that they are so frightened about, and Erling Haaland as well. Right, you're going to get your full match commentary now on the Manchester City app if you're not currently watching us on there. Get over to that now. Alistair Mann and the wonderful, wouldn't replace him for anybody, Michael Brown are on your co-commentary today. We will be back at half-time and at full-time, where hopefully we are talking about City continuing the journey to defend our FA Cup. Enjoy the match, Blues. We'll see you soon.
Well, welcome to Kenilworth Road. For many City fans, the FA Cup win at Wembley against United last June was one of the highlights of their many loyal years of watching the Blues. Although it was subsequently eclipsed by that never-to-be-forgotten night in Istanbul against Inter Milan, it still created some wonderful memories. And tonight, the defence of that FA Cup continues with a trip to Luton Town and a second visit in just a few months to their unique Kenilworth Road home. With the stands tight to the side of the pitch, it may be one of the smallest grounds in the top division, but it simply never lacks for atmosphere or intensity. And despite Premier League survival being far and away Luton's top priority, the home side have still opted to name a really strong lineup tonight, hoping to spring a surprise. The two sides make their way out from the small confines of the tunnel, which are not quite at the side of the pitch. They're more over towards the left-hand side of it. And this is a